Talk to me nice, talk to me honestly. Look in my eyes, don't let it fall.
All right. Well, thank you everybody who has joined us today. We are super excited to chat with you about change management here at Slack. My name is Raven Perrin, and I'm excited to welcome you all today. I am a senior employee recruiter here for our sales recruiting team at Slack. I've been here about 5 months. And I primarily recruit for our mid-market AE team, but I've had the pleasure of partnering with multiple levels of our AE team in terms of hiring. Our Slack sales team consists of not only AEs, but we've got solutions engineers, customer success managers, and several other supporting roles that make us successful at what we do. So we're super excited to chat with you today. We'll go to the next slide. Let's take a look at our agenda. So we'll begin with panel introductions, and then we'll have a moderated Q&A session where our panelists will share some personal stories and answer questions around what it's like to incorporate change management on the sales team at Slack. So following that, we'll have an open Q&A with our panelists, and those questions can be submitted using the chat feature here on the side. You can either pose a question to a specific person or open it up to the whole panel. And then we'll wrap it up with how to stay connected with us at Slack. So we would like to introduce you to our incredible team members here at Slack. No one can represent these panelists better than themselves. So I'm going to ask each one of them to introduce themselves. Victoria, would you like to kick us off?
Yeah, I'll go first. Hi, everyone. Victoria Breidenthal. I am an enterprise account executive here at Slack. Just celebrated my 3-year anniversary. And a couple things about me on the slide here. Originally from the Bay Area, born and raised. Didn't make it very far for college. Went down south to Southern California. And a fun fact about me is that every Christmas I make many, many tamales by hand with my family. So we enjoy those Christmas morning and give them out as gifts.
Awesome. Let's kick it over to you, Nidhi.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nidhi, and I'm a principal solution engineer at Slack. I've been in this industry 22 years, and I joined Slack about 2.5 years ago and have loved every minute of it. I am an electrical engineer by education, but now I love being in the pre-sales field, working with our customers and helping them transform their business. I moved from India about 14 years ago and have called Bay Area home. And, that's where I've been for the last 14 years. From the pictures you'll see, I am a mom to 2 lovely yet demanding kids. And the next picture that you see is a representation of my mantra in life. It is always to learn something new every 6 months. But recently I modified that a little bit, saying that, hey, why don't I get better at something versus, just trying new things every 6 months. So that's me. It's not a perfect pose for you yoga practitioners, but, 18 months ago, I couldn't lift 10 pounds. Now I'm sort of lifting my body weight. So that's my inspiration to keep doing, to get better than I was yesterday. So thank you for your time today and lovely meeting with you all.
Awesome. Stacy, what about you?
Hi, everyone. I'm Stacy McPherson. I'm a senior customer success manager at Slack. Just a little bit about my background. I spent 9 years in technology sales, and then about 4 years ago, I pivoted to the customer success world. I love helping customers and helping them realize value out of the products that they use. And that's why I made that little move. I've been at Slack for just about a month, so I'm a little bit of a newbie, but I'm absolutely loving it here. I'm a native of Orlando, Florida. I lived and worked abroad, though, for 5 years after college, but I'm currently located in Atlanta, Georgia. I do have a twin brother. That is the image that you see at the bottom with me and him. We were out. He is a lot taller than me. I was actually in heels in that picture, but we are twins and he's awesome. Another little fun fact about me is that I absolutely love traveling. It's one of my biggest passions, and I have a personal goal every year of visiting at least one new country. Kind of hard right now with COVID, but once things get a little bit back to normal, I'll get back on that again. And over to you, Alexis.
Thank you, Stacy. Hi, everyone. My name is Alexis Doolin. I'm an experience specialist. I spent 4 years in management consulting at Accenture. I've been at Slack for 2 years, and I graduated from Spelman College back in 2016. I'm originally from Los Angeles, California. I've lived in 6 cities and I've traveled to 42 countries. Because I'm an avid traveler, I collect coffee and coffee mugs from every city I travel to. So I have over 100 coffee mugs that I have in my house. And I also get one from my mom because my mom is an avid coffee drinker. So that's sort of something that we do together. And I'm so happy to be here to speak with you all today.
Awesome. Thank you so much for those introductions, everyone. Now we're going to dive into our panel discussion. So the theme of today's call is focused on change management in the workplace. So let's just kind of jump right in. What does change management look like, or what does it mean to each of you in your role? I'll start off with you, Alexis.
So as you guys know, Slack is a new tool for a lot of my customers, and launching Slack means changing the way people communicate and ultimately get work done on a daily basis. Change management is at the crux of what I do in my role at Slack. And my role as an experience specialist is to help customers understand their user journey using Slack. I take time to understand and do a current state assessment of a customer through discovery sessions and user interviews across business units. And this helps me best design what the user experience and the overall user journey is going to be for that customer. And as we know, the user journey directly aligns with change management, because as a user begins to adopt and mature in a tool, specifically in Slack, it determines how much value they're getting out of the tool, specifically Slack, and how that change journey is really determining whether or not Slack is actually making the change that they want in terms of what their success criteria may be and those specific use cases that they came to us initially to kind of address. So change management is at the crux of what I do. And as an experience specialist, I really want to make sure that my customers are really seeing the change and the maturity and adoption within Slack after launch.
Awesome. Stacy, would you like to give us a little bit of insight there as well?
Sure. So as a senior customer success manager, I work to make sure that as they're going through these changes, we're there step by step along the way to make sure that everything runs smoothly. As Alexis mentioned earlier, sometimes it's hard for a lot of people to adjust since you're completely changing the way in which you work when you adopt Slack as a product, but it's really awesome. And one of the things I love is that I've been a user of Slack even prior to starting with the organization for about 4 years, and I've always been a huge fan. But I was able to see how robust and how much you were able to do with the product as I came on board as a new hire. And it's just so exciting to see all of the awesome ways that Slack makes you just way more efficient with what you do in your day-to-day role, and the way that they were able to connect with me even prior to my first day on the job as a new hire to make sure that I had all my equipment. If I had any questions, a workspace was created so I could ask those prior to coming on board, which was absolutely wonderful. So I think what's awesome is that even though I'm new, what I'll be able to do now is share some of those ways in which Slack has helped me on board with my customers to help them through their journey as they adopt and mature.
Stacy, I love that. It's definitely something that I incorporate as a recruiter, speaking to candidates and talking about the onboarding experience, and that you immediately get immersed into the Slack world. Well, awesome. Want to hop into this next one. What's your favorite customer story as it relates to change management? Nidhi, let's start with you.
So my role is more on the pre-sale side, where I'm sort of painting the vision with the customer, which then once the customer agrees to that vision, then we do change management around. So I think my favorite story, if you may, is Salesforce. I happened to be the SC when we were selling into Salesforce. This was obviously before we got acquired, and one of my favorite meetings was when we met with the VP of customer service. And he talked about reimagining the customer experience for Salesforce. So as we started, with our discovery process, we understood the power of Service Cloud and what that brings to the table. But we also identified how Slack can join forces with Service Cloud and help agents solve customers' queries faster. So while the customer was on the phone waiting to get their questions answered, if the agent needed help, Slack could be the tool where they go and get expert advice. They can pull in people who are needed and then resolve that problem quickly. So that vision landed really well with the Salesforce team, and lo and behold, with people like Alexis and Stacy who continue to work with Salesforce, they actually went ahead, executed on that vision, built a whole lot of custom integrations, and today they are able to cut down the time to reduce to close customer calls or answer the queries by 26%. So in my mind, that is such a wonderful story of how Slack is enabling our customers with digital transformation and making lives of not just their agents, but also their customers simple, better, more productive.
Thank you. Victoria, tell us about your favorite customer story.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite things about Slack is that every customer can use it in a different way and tends to come up with really creative ways, whether it's culture building or something that's fun to use, and people like using the tool. But my favorite type of story is when it actually affects and impacts their business. I worked with a logistics company out of Texas, which didn't tend to be one of our prime sort of customers or industries in general. Slack originally was really good in tech knowledge working scenes. So this was kind of cool to jump in and understand, what does a logistics company do? What is important to them? And in talking to their executive team, the ask of Slack was, can you help us move freight faster? It's what their business does. They move things on planes, trains, freight ships. And our answer was yes. And then we had to go back and figure out how to do that. So I worked with my solutions engineer, Nidhi, on figuring out, can we move things faster for this business? And how can Slack do that? How can Slack bring that vision to life? Because that is at the crux and the core of what this company does. So if we're able to help solve that real business problem, then Slack's valuable. And if we can solve that and actually bring it to life with folks like Alexis and Stacy and the rest of the extended team, then we win and Slack stays. So for this logistics company, we actually created what we call a slash command. So it's actually the / symbol on your computer. And they would type in load bot. And it pulled up a customized bot that we created where any person or any agent at their company could type in a freight number that actually pulled up all of the details on where that piece of freight was, where it was on the plane or the train, if it was at customs, where it was held up, which was so cool and allowed people to swarm on anything that was delayed, any problems, or even just update the customer and inform them with where their things were. So one of my more favorite ones, certainly nothing really glamorous, but when you kind of break it down and back into what this customer's business was and how Slack helped expedite that, it was a great win all around.
Awesome. Yeah, I've definitely heard of Arrive, Victoria. So that's a great story to talk about how we've impacted their business. Alexis, give us your favorite customer story.
So I'm going to kind of piggyback on what Victoria mentioned in terms of how we work with the entire team to kind of deliver value to our customers. So I work very closely with our engagement management team. So they're the team that really drives and kind of creates the statements of work that allows me and my team members to do our work. So with a lot of customers, we're doing a lot of lift and shifts. So moving from some of our lesser plans to our enterprise grid plan, which connects all of your workspaces. The primary use case when we are moving from like a plus plan to a grid plan is the ability to connect better with teams across your organization. And I think my favorite use case for my customers is helping to bridge the gaps and kind of disconnect silos within organizations to provide a better internal communications program for our customers. I think the number one thing that a lot of people love about Slack is the way in which you can communicate. And I think my favorite customer story, which spans across all of my customers, is that internal communications, being able to use emojis to react to messages, being able to put your eyes on a message to say you've seen it and that you're working on something, kind of shortening the amount of interaction that you have to have. And, through that way of communication and working with our customers to break down those silos, we're seeing that there's a lot more collaboration. And to Victoria's point, we're creating a culture of more interconnectedness across teams through using Slack. And the great part about my role is that post-launch, most customers will get a customer success manager like Stacy, and they can continue a lot of that work that we've done with our customers, with those specific use cases and some of the success criteria that I mentioned before, to continue to grow adoption, grow maturity, and then continue on that change management journey that I was talking about earlier. So not specifically one customer story, but that internal communications use case across all customers is one that I love to share with everyone. And that's kind of at the crux of what I do as an experience specialist. So.
Thank you. You mentioned culture, Alexis, and I want to bring that up in our next question. Culture is big at Slack, right? The way that you use Slack, it really kind of drives the culture in a lot of these different companies that are our customers. So, what are the aspects of Slack culture and the values that have convinced you that this is a great place for you to grow and build your career? Stacy, obviously you're only a month in, but kick us off with that question.
Sure. So I started Slack a month ago, and personal story I want to share on that front is a part of our new hire onboarding. There are a number of different welcome videos that we get to watch with people welcoming us to the company that are really wonderful. Our CEO has a message that he sends as well, which is really sweet and nice. One video in particular that really resonated with me, especially was it was done by our head of D&I, Janae Simon. In the video, when she introduces us to our ERGs, she starts with saying, "Welcome to Slack." And she says, "You belong here." And I actually cried when I watched that, because as a woman of color, it just meant a lot to see someone that looked like me welcoming me to my new company. And I just thought it was so wonderful and just demonstrated that Slack just does such a great job to show that they really do care about inclusion and belonging. And I'm just really grateful for that. And I'm really happy to be here.
I think that's a common feeling that we all feel, especially those of us that have joined recently. I'm 5 months in, and I felt the same thing. I, was so surprised by the focus of DEI that, was incorporated so early on in my training, and I'm so grateful for it. But Victoria, would love for you to talk a little bit about, what are the aspects of Slack culture that have convinced you to stay and grow with us?
Yeah, I'll piggyback off what both you and Stacy had to say. Two things stick out to me. The first is really just a path to promotion for women. When I look around, not only our sales org, that's the org that I'm a part of, but just across the company, there are so many women in positions of leadership. that I'm not sure you maybe see all of the time. And it's been that way since I started at Slack. So it really meant a lot to me to join a company where I see, to Stacey's point, women up at the top, women that are leading, that are being promoted, that are, speaking up and being bold and, bringing change to the organization. It shows that could potentially be me, that there's a path there for me as well. I've even seen a handful of women promoted at Slack that are about to head out on maternity leave. So promoting women to management positions and recognizing that they're moms, that they will be moms, that they have kids at home like Nidhi and some of us as well. So it's something that's great to see starting off at Slack. And then the second is working at a company where the customer comes first. So I worked at companies in the past where, the technology is first, but we have such high user love and such high user people that use our platform, that when we put our customers first, we win. And so it's great to work at a company that promotes women as well as puts the customer first.
Nidhi, would love for you to round us off on that question on, how Slack culture has impacted you as well.
Absolutely. So even when I was, thinking about a company change 2.5 years ago, there are 3 things I look for as it relates to career. Product. Obviously, if you have a great product to sell, it makes your life a lot easier. Because your question is more around culture, I'll leave the product part out. But the second thing is people. And I think Victoria talked a lot about that. And I think the thing I will add is that, we are also people first. So I know and believe that my managers care about my well-being. As an example, during the pandemic, I was juggling, so many different roles at Slack. And, at one point I felt maybe this is not the time to, maybe this is the time to step back and, just be a stay-at-home mom because it's too much to juggle. But then Slack gave me that flexibility to work at my own time so that I could still have a career and be a good mom to my kids. So that employee first and keeping our mental well-being in mind, I thought was one of the huge reasons why I stayed at Slack. And the third thing is process. And what I mean by that is we are an always evolving company. So our processes are open to feedback. My solution engineering team actually had input on what our competitive messaging, would be for Slack. So the ability to contribute at all levels where feedback is welcome and appreciated and actually solicited, I think is so unique to Slack. And, as I give feedback and I get feedback, I become a better technologist. I become a better person. So in my mind, it's always people, process, and product. And and we are amazing.
Thank you, ladies. That was super helpful. And I think, just to blanket all of that into work-life balance, right? I preach that to my candidates and I let them know, no matter where you go, whether it's here or someone else, you need to make sure that is going to be beneficial to how you structure your life, and that role is going to be conducive to that environment. Before we kick off in the last question, I know we're coming up on time. I want to invite everyone to start, putting some questions in the chat for the Q&A session that we're going to have last, and we will get to those questions after this one. So our last question that we've got so far is, now that Salesforce's acquisition of Slack is all done, what do you think about the new success from anywhere model? Alexis, would you kick us off there?
Sure. So I think this is a really great question. And I think everybody is probably wondering how we're all feeling now that we've been acquired by Salesforce. Will the culture change? How will our work lives be impacted? But one of the great things that I've been hearing from Mark Benioff is that he believes that our workforce should remain at home, or we should have a flexible environment in which we want to work. And the great thing about combining Salesforce and Slack is that Slack is meant for us to be able to do so. If you think about what happened at the beginning of the pandemic, everyone was scrambling to find a tool where they could communicate real time and get work done at the same time. And many of you, I'm pretty sure, either looked to Slack probably only Slack, I'm hoping. And you're able to work from anywhere using Slack, communicate with your team, get work done more efficiently. And the great thing about that was that you can also integrate a lot of the other tools that you're using to get work done by using Slack. So this work from anywhere model is really kind of where we started at Slack. When I first started, I didn't need to be in an office. I got all my work done in Slack. And now that the world is sort of coming to terms with the pandemic and how we all have to change the way we work, Slack is going to be at the crux of that. And I believe that this whole, work from anywhere model from Salesforce, from Mark Benioff, 98% of folks want to work from anywhere. They want to have the ability to choose when they go to the office, if at all. And I think that Slack is really going to kind of drive that forward. And I believe that with Salesforce and Slack combining, our cultures are just, it's synonymous in terms of what we're going to be able to deliver to our customers, the work-life balance that we're going to be able to continue to have internally. And then being able to give that to our customers in terms of leveraging Slack and Salesforce to do that for their companies as well internally. So.
Perfect. No, thank you so much. And I definitely agree that moving forward, we're looking forward to continue to, really drive this success from anywhere model and hopefully put our money where our mouth is, right? Prove that the product that we're selling is built for this environment. We were a little bit ahead of the curve, and I think COVID just really amplified that. So would really love to pass it over to you, Nidhi, and have you touch on that as well.
Absolutely. Alexis, you did a wonderful job answering that question. And maybe when I think of, success from anywhere, I'm looking at it both from our customers' point of view, where, now they want to be able to interact with their teams, with their vendors, anywhere that they are, in any medium that they choose to. And then from my perspective, on the personal side, being able to, work from Hawaii while my kids are, at the beach. So I think maybe I'll just focus on the customer side. I think what excites me a lot is the product innovation that we are now bringing to bear with our product that allows our customers to work in teams that are remote and still feel inclusive. I'll give you an example. I'm working on a project with my team. Half of them are in London, some of them are in India, some of them are on the East Coast, and I'm on the West Coast. And Slack is a platform that allows us to still get our work done at our own schedule, by using videos. That's how we post our updates. So it's simple, but it's a way of being inclusive and letting people work at the time that works for them. So work, when work flows, revenue grows. You probably heard our tagline, right? And I think that's true now more than ever.
Perfect. Thank you so much for wrapping us up there. I know we are almost up on time. We might have time for one question. So we want to hear from you. If you do have a burning question, use the chat function to share it with the panel. You can ask general questions or ask to one specific panelist. While you do that, I do have, a couple of pre-submitted questions. So would love to understand, if you guys can share some of the ways that you're able to be a customer first at Slack with Slack. How do you guys incorporate that in your day-to-day and how you communicate with customers? I'll point this one towards Victoria.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about this. One of my favorite features of Slack is what we call Slack Connect. And it essentially allows us to connect our Slack workspace to anyone else that has a Slack workspace. So if two separate customers or companies use Slack, we can essentially build a bridge between that so they can Slack back and forth. And I personally use this every day, all day with my customers and my prospects. And it just allows things large and small to be expedited. So everything from scheduling a meeting, to Nidhi's point, across multiple time zones with 7, 10 plus people, it's a lot easier to do that in a message, in a DM, in a channel, versus back and forth in email. Things get scheduled a lot quicker that way. and as well as build trust and rapport with your customers. So if you can imagine what it would be like to get on a texting relationship with one of your customers or an executive, it allows you to really have this deep customer relationship versus over email, we're a bit more formal. You know, we put a lot more thought before we hit send because it seems just so permanent. And in Slack, you can add emojis. Giphy, I think, is the #1 used integration across everybody. So being able to embed a funny video. And so one of my favorite features, it allows us to be obviously very customer centric when we're in our own product with our customers.
Perfect. Well, I know we're right at time, everyone. So we're super thankful for you all for participating in this webinar today. We want to, give you some opportunities to continue to connect with us. You see, we've got a few events that, we'll also be hosting in the future. But if you, are feeling inspired after this session and you want to figure out how to join us, by all means, connect with us on LinkedIn, submit an application to our Slack careers site, and take a look at those open roles. So, thank you guys all for joining us today. Take care of everyone and be well. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you for the time, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.